quit my 9 to 5 in marketing to become an appointment setter, and since then a lot has changed, but not as much as you'd think. There's definitely an increase in the threats from AI taking over our job, but I know for a fact, having worked with, honestly, tens of clients, whether I've worked with them personally or one of the girls that I've trained has worked with their accounts, and there's a vast difference between getting someone that is trained, working on your account and supporting your business, compared to an AI bot or someone that hasn't got the training that you're essentially onboarding because they're a lot cheaper, maybe from the Philippines. And honestly, if you are looking to cut these shortcuts because you're not willing to pay commission to a setter, or like the right amount commission or even a base, then you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table for your business. And the reason I say this is because I've obviously focused on building my academy, focused on training girls and building my own business. And recently I've taken on a client who's in a really exciting industry, and he had a setter before on his account that he was just paying commission. So I'm going to specifically take you through some things that I've noticed since onboarding my last client, who's in a really exciting industry and had a setter on his account before, but I wouldn't say that they were necessarily trained. They were working on a commission only basis. They were a lot cheaper than my services. And I think that what he was looking for is a bit more structure, a bit more feedback, a bit more open communication on exactly where his leads were. I've since managed to go into the account. I've had a look through the messages in what I call a nesting period. When any of my setters get into an account, I always tell them to state to the client, like, I am going to need a few hours just to process the state of your account. Like, honestly, nesting is the right word, because it is, you're just looking around, you're getting a good feel for it, you're understanding what are the leads that are hottest, where you should be reaching out to them, what the tonality of the client's like, and what tonality works. Sometimes they might have had a setter on the account and the tonality is completely wrong. So for the client that I'm working with, he is a high ticket offer. He actually works in real estate and supports other agents in the industry. So I've found that as much as a good bro mate works, it helps to have structure to the conversation and be very firm in my tonality in the messages and authoritative, because you're asking really successful people to invest in something that will increase their success. They're not going to do it if you're super casual, like, come on, let's make a bit of money, da da da. You need to be like, okay, this seems like this is the spot that you're in, this is what I offer, I'd love to get you on a call. Obviously, very much more casual than that, but that is the process, rather than being like, sounds like you need to earn money or make more money, let me help you. So that's one thing, is having someone that's actually willing to assess the tonality and make sure that it sounds like you, it's authoritative, and it actually gets them qualified ahead of booking them into a call. The next thing is, since working with this client, I have changed my tracker, I'd say 4 times within the last 2.5 months. And that does sound like a lot of work. It's quite frustrating at times. But ultimately, the tracker, as much as it's there for the client to see what I'm doing and be able to have a good overview of the leads, it's there to help me make money as an appointment setter. So I want to actually know where each lead is, and where this offer is quite complex, where I'm essentially helping filter these leads into 3 different buckets of people, going to potentially 3 different closes. I need to be really strategic in the way that I'm tracking them, so that no lead gets lost, because at the end of the day, that's just money lying on the table, and it's at the final step that it could be lost forever if I'm not doing the right follow-ups and if I've not directed them to the right person. Also, with managing multiple closes, it definitely is more of a challenge to keep on top of, like, okay, let me follow up with this person just to check they're still attending the call tomorrow, just to check that they're still interested in the offer, especially if I booked them like 4 days in advance. So this is something that I've really had to make sure is quite prominent in the way that I'm tracking these leads, is like, where are they when I've come to the end of my own role, and what happens to them then. Not only because I want to make sure that the closes time isn't wasted with no-shows, but I also want to understand, like, okay, this person should have had a call now, let me check in with that closer, see how it went, because that's my commission as well. So it's all of the things that lead up to it. They're quite intense, and for my role, I never want a closer to come and say this lead's not qualified. It definitely took me a good hot minute to work out what questions I needed to ask, so that when these leads are getting on the call, they are more likely to close. So I've referred to a model called BANT. So this is when you look at budget, authority, so have they got someone else that is going to be looking in and making the decision for them, like a partner, maybe parents, their need, what pain point are they experiencing where this actually needs to happen pretty much ASAP, or what's the solution that we can give for their need. And then timeline. So timeline is when are they looking to make a decision on this. For example, if they're currently studying in school, they might not actually be looking to get into the offer that I'm working on at the moment, but June or July may be a good time to follow up. So I've qualified this lead to the point where we know that their budget, authority, need qualified, but in terms of the timeline, they're not going to sign up for the next few months. So at this point, it's not actually worth getting them on a call with a closer, because what we don't want to do is overwhelm this lead with information and then think, okay, yeah, I'll get back in touch in June, July, but not be willing to put more time aside for another closing call. And at that point, because they're not going to close, you may as well just book them in for when they are going to close. This framework I find works really well. It definitely can be frustrating at times when someone fits all the boxes, but their budget literally might not be there. And that's where you just really have open communication with the closer, with the client, and you're like, is there any payment plans? Is there anything that we can do? And would it still be worth getting them on a call? Or what else can we offer? So my client, he offers coaching programs, but he also will keep leads quite warm and hot by inviting them to events, which are obviously much lower ticket. So instead of paying thousands for a coaching program, they're paying £80 for a day of networking, of learning what the coaching program will entail and anything they can implement at the moment, whilst they may not have those larger funds. So it's all about making sure that I'm tracking all of these people, and personally, I've not found an AI system that can do that. Having created this tracker myself, moving on from a couple of the other trackers that I've put together since being with this client, being in the DMs has really helped me understand exactly what I need to learn, and speaking to the closer, speaking to the client. So although the client could have provided me with this tracker if I was a less experienced setter, I don't feel like it would be as detailed, and I also feel like it works having something that really aligns with what you've been trained in, what you know in terms of the information you need, and also feeding into that motivation to get commission as an appointment setter. And finally, I always say to any of the setters in my team that you have to be open to really expanding your role, and it's not such a negative thing to move away from setting and support the client elsewhere. A lot of the times it does feed into setting, but ultimately you're the first point of contact between the client and these leads. So you get a lot more information than other people from the business. You've probably looked into social media marketing if you've looked into appointment setting and you're thinking, okay, I want a side hustle or a full-time role. And the difference between social media marketing and appointment setting is it's very clear the inputs and outputs that you are getting from this business. So if you're putting more into really engaging with these leads, building rapport, tracking them, your outputs are going to be a lot better. Whereas with social media, we all know the term virality, and it can be a lot more hit and miss. There may be a piece of content that you've put a lot of work into, but at the end it might not perform, and it might be quite clear, especially if it's a paid ad, that the return on investment hasn't been that much for it. So that's why I really enjoy being an appointment setter coming from a marketing role, because I can say at the end of each month, like, I've performed to the best of my ability and this is the commission that I'm going to be invoicing. That being said, the role does expand into other avenues, and I think a massive part of this is because you build a lot of trust with the client. You're really keen to get to know their business, you're keen to be that point of contact for these leads right from the start of their journey. So they really like to expand with you and for you to grow with them. The client retention rate in appointment setting is a lot higher than I would say other freelance roles, just because of what I've discussed. So like, you are being able to showcase your value quite clearly month on month. But But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because with the client I'm working with, we noticed that there was definitely a bit of a problem when it came to actually booking leads onto a closing call and them saying, well, I don't think this is for me and this isn't actually what I was looking for. Because a lot of his leads are in the DMs trying to get free information. And playing that authority figure I am, of course I'm giving them some tips, tricks from what I've learned from the coaching and attending a coaching call and even attending one of the events. But I'm really trying to just find out their pain point, and if the coach is a good fit, I want to move them over to the closing call. That being said, these people with pain points, they're trying to get free information, they get to the closing call, not looking to invest right now, sorry about that. Or if I am, I'm looking to invest in a few months once this deal's gone over the line. Absolutely fine, but at the end of the day, these closers, they're giving an hour of their time. I want them to be motivated as an appointment setter because that will mean that they close more. I get them to a point now in the DMs where they say, okay, yep, I'm still experiencing this pain point, and yes, your offer does look like a great solution for me. Obviously, they don't say it in these terms. I'm reading between the lines. And at this point, as the client, I'm obviously pretending to be the client, I'll say, okay, what I really would like to do is learn a bit more about your situation. I've actually got a member of my team, Rach, I've passed on your contact information and she's going to reach out to you in the next 24 hours or so. At this point, I'm getting this lead onto a call as myself, which is actually quite nice. It's a bit of a nice switch up to break up my day. And then I'm just chatting with them, finding a bit more about their situation and going through that BAM framework. So budget, authority, need and timeline. Once they've checked all the boxes, I've actually got them on the phone. I've got their contact information in my lovely lead tracker. And I'm saying, okay, what would be the best next step? I've obviously got 3 different buckets here as well. What would be the next step is to book you on a call with another member of our team. He will go through a bespoke roadmap with you, and all that's really required is a yes or a no at the end of this conversation, but it sounds like it could be a great fit for you. We're in a really great position because this lead is booking on to a call while he's on the phone to me. There's a lot of value that I'm giving by having this conversation with them as the clients. They're thinking, okay, I love the fact that this guy's taken the time to reach out to me. I love the fact that he has a team member who's obviously looking out for me and making sure that I go down the right pathway. And then I'm really excited about actually booking onto this program and getting started on this next call. So as you can see, there's a really nice flow to the way that we're doing things, and this is different to any other client that I've worked with. I've closed offers in the DMs, I've closed offers by getting them on a closing call with the client. But I'd say that when a business is scaling and when there are multiple people in the team, this is why AI and untrained appointment setters will never quite fit the same bill as if you're trained and you have that support. Because I have girls coming to me now like, should I be doing this? What should I be doing with this client? And it's all about having that willingness to adapt but not be walked all over. So by taking on these extra roles, like I'm happy to take on phone calls because not only does it break up my day quite nicely, but I know for a fact that when these leads are getting onto a closing call, the likelihood of them closing is a lot higher than if I was to just continue booking them in the DMs, which we know from having done that for a month or so, it's not working, just booking them from there to there. They're saying like, oh, I wasn't actually looking to invest. So by having this process, we're naturally going to be increasing the close rate. We're all going to be performing better as a team because the more money that the client makes, the more money that myself and the closer makes. So that team morale is up. It's just about really having an open conversation with your client and making sure that your role is going to be benefiting each partner as much as possible. We're all in it for the same reasons, and when you have that mindset of like, okay, what can I do for this business to actually improve my outcomes, you need to change the inputs. So naturally here, by changing my inputs, I'm actually changing the trajectory of my commission, which is always a great thing to see. I'm actually really excited because my commission definitely hasn't been what was expected with this client, and it definitely was a case of the processes haven't been ironed out, where this is a new offer and it's currently in that scaling phase. That being said, I'm a strong believer of practice what you preach, and I obviously help girls get into appointment setting, remote work, and actually being able to scale their own service with clients. So by having such an elaborate client, I'm really excited to see where it goes and basically report back month on month on that commission increase. So stay tuned for the end of Jan and then Feb, March, however long afterwards. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this bit of an insight into the difference between a trained appointment setter and then if you were going to use AI or someone that isn't trained. And the sake of going for quantity over quality, because quality always wins.